The wealth gap in society is not primarily a gap in resources. It is a gap in psychology. Most people operate under the illusion that the divide between their current reality and financial sovereignty is simply a matter of luck, talent, or access to the right network. This is a comforting lie. It is a psychological defense mechanism designed to protect the ego from the painful truth. You are exactly where your habits have designed you to be. The 1% do not possess a secret formula. They possess a fundamentally different operating system, where the majority are ruled by emotion, impulse, and the pursuit of comfort. Those who build generational wealth are ruled by discipline, delayed gratification, and stoic execution. Today, we are going to deconstruct the behavioral psychology of the 1%. We are not going to talk about motivation. Motivation is a chemical spike. It is fleeting, unreliable, and cheap. We are going to talk about the psychological frameworks and cognitive traits that systematically manufacture financial power. Let us begin with the most critical asset you possess: your attention. The 99% are trapped in a relentless cycle of seeking external validation. They bleed their cognitive energy into digital dopamine loops. They measure their standing by response times, read receipts, and the superficial approval of their peers. They waste their highest functioning hours managing their social image, monitoring who is watching their life instead of actually building it. This constant need for external feedback is a psychological vulnerability. If you are constantly reacting to the world, you cannot conquer it. The 1% operate entirely outside of this paradigm. They understand that true leverage, whether in financial markets, business negotiations, or social dynamics, belongs to the man who controls his own attention. They do not chase validation. They construct undeniable value. Financial power requires an emotional baseline that remains entirely unswayed by intermittent social rewards. When you strip away the need to be liked, the need to be seen, and the need to be validated, you reclaim the mental bandwidth required to build empires. You must transition from a consumer of dopamine to a producer of value. In behavioral economics, there is a concept known as time preference. The 99% have a high time preference. They demand immediate returns for their efforts. If they put in work on Monday, they expect a reward by Friday. When the reward does not materialize, cognitive dissonance sets in, followed by frustration and ultimately quitting. Wealth creation does not operate on a linear timeline. It operates on an exponential curve. Consider the biological mechanism of the bamboo tree. You can plant the seed, water it, and cultivate the soil for 5 years without seeing a single green shoot break the surface. For 5 years, the organism is building an intricate, massive root system underground. Then, in the span of 6 weeks, it grows 90 feet tall. The amateur looks at the bamboo and marvels at the 6 weeks of explosive growth. The expert understands that the growth took 5 years of silent, invisible work. This is the latency period of compound growth. The 1% mindset is engineered to endure this latency period without losing conviction. You must train your mind to work ruthlessly in the dark. You must execute your daily protocols when there is no applause, no visible progress, and no immediate financial return. You are building the root system. If you cannot handle the silence of the latency period, you do not deserve the explosive growth that follows. Most individuals are paralyzed by the fear of failure because their ego is tied to the outcome. When they fail, they interpret it as a reflection of their identity. They think, "I am a failure." The wealthy mind views failure simply as data acquisition. When you test a business model, launch a product, or execute a trade, you are putting a hypothesis into the market. If it fails, the market is simply providing you with neutral, objective feedback. It is telling you which variables were incorrect. The 1% fail at a frequency that would destroy the average person. They absorb the data, adjust the variable, and execute again. They do not mourn, they iterate. This is emotional stoicism applied to economics. If you want to acquire financial power, you must detach your self-worth from your short-term outcomes. You must become a machine that processes feedback. The faster you can cycle through failure, extract the necessary data, and apply it to the next iteration, the faster you will close the gap between your current reality and your ultimate objective. The ultimate differentiator is the capacity for relentless, unfeeling execution.
The 99% wait for alignment. They wait to feel motivated. They wait for the market conditions to be perfect. They wait for the right opportunity to be handed to them. They live in a perpetual state of preparation, consuming information, but never deploying it. The 1% understand that clarity does not come from thought. Clarity comes from action. Movement generates friction. Friction generates heat, and heat transforms the environment. You must take ownership of your reality with absolute ruthlessness. No one is coming to save you. No one is coming to hand you the capital, the connections, or the blueprint. You must build it yourself, brick by agonizing brick. This requires you to push through the resistance. When the alarm goes off at 5 a.m. and your body demands comfort, you execute. When the market turns against you and panic sets in, you execute. When you are exhausted, depleted, and completely devoid of motivation, you execute. Discipline is the mechanism by which you transfer your potential into reality. You have a choice to make, and you must make it today. You can continue to operate with the psychology of the majority. You can continue to seek comfort, chase digital distractions, and let your emotions dictate your net worth. You can accept a life of mediocrity, constantly wondering what could have been if you had simply applied yourself. Or you can adopt the 1% mindset. You can choose stoicism over reaction. You can choose discipline over motivation. You can choose to build an undeniable, high-value reality. The blueprint is simple, but the execution is brutal. The market does not care about your feelings. It only rewards your competence. Step up. Build the root system. Do the work.
Want to be part of the 1%? Subscribe to Axiom of Value and let me guide you to your ultimate destination.